think of ourselves as the most powerful beings in the universe, it's unsettling to discover that we're wrong. Time has come to see the world as it is.
Can we pull back the veil of static and reach into the source of all being? Behind this curtain lies this random pattern generator. You will be responsible for an escalation that will destroy everything.
This episode will be a first for Chaos Shamanism. I'm going to read an interview I did with an old friend who told me that he has had a series of strange experiences. Me. I want to ask you quite a few questions, but I'd like to start by asking you about the coworker you mentioned who has psychic abilities. What did she tell you about your own life, and has anything she said turned out to be true or meaningful to you? His name is Rob. Rob answers. Okay, so it wasn't a coworker. It was an immigrant from Honduras named Yesenia. I work for a corrections company called Core Civic, also known as Corrections Corporation of America. My job is to monitor the residents, or immigrants, with the care, welfare, safety, and security that they need. How I came to meet Yesenia was through a coworker who monitored her in her pod, her last name Martinez. We go by last names at work anyways. Martinez is a cool person to work with. We talk and joke around about just about anything and everything. One day Martinez showed a card trick to the residents just for fun, and Yesenia was one of those residents. The other residents were blown away by the card trick, but not Yesenia. Yesenia told Martinez in Spanish, "No, miss, I'll show you a real trick." So Yesenia deals this deck of cards out and tells Martinez to pick a card. Yesenia takes the deck, shuffles them so many times, and then finds her card with no trouble at all, with ease. She does this a few more times and picks the right card every time. Then she goes and tells Martinez that she is a psychic. She can read minds, answer questions about the future, and even tell you your future with the deck of cards. So now Martinez is blown away by this, so Yesenia says, ask her a question in her mind and she will tell you what you're thinking. So Martinez puts her to the test and then thinks of a question. Is her boyfriend ever going to ask her to marry her? Yesenia says, you're thinking of marriage. Martinez is kind of freaked out about this by now and lies that it was not what she was thinking. Yesenia asks if Martinez wants to ask more questions. Martinez is thinking yes, and Yesenia knows she wants to keep playing. By this time it was already bedtime for the residents, so it ends there. My job is usually a utility officer. I get things for the officers, give breaks, give items to the residents, etc. I come into Martinez's pod to see if she wants a restroom break or whatever, and that's when she tells me everything about this resident, Yesenia. The next day, I come and I ask her if she can see my future. She says yes, and I told her if I can ask her. Yesenia says yes again. She says I have to shuffle the cards 7 times, split the cards 3 times, and stack them on top of each other in horizontal and vertical to show 3 different stacks. I then have to put my hand on top of the deck, and in my mind I have to ask the question. I asked, what is my future wealth, or something like that. I want her to know what my wealth looks like in the future. So she takes the deck, deals them out with the numbers facing up. To me, I saw nothing, but she says there was a white woman with a lot of money. She pointed out the Queen of Hearts with the Ace of Hearts beneath it. I think the Ace meant money, but the Queen of Hearts was the white woman. Beneath the Ace was the King of Hearts. She says this man tries to help the Queen of Hearts to get with me. I wasn't sure who was the King of Hearts, maybe her stepdad or some sort of father figure maybe. I was the King of Clubs, I think. But she says I push her away or turn away from her because I don't want her and that I already have someone else, but she says that I want the brown girl and wanted to be with her family, and she showed the cards of the Queen of Spades, Jack of Spades, King of Spades. She also says there was a black woman in my future, but I told her I didn't know any black women well enough to be in my life, so that kind of confused me. She also points out that the King of Diamonds, Jack of Diamonds, and Ace of Diamonds were my family and that one of them was sick or ill with something. She says this because all of the number of clubs surrounding these cards indicated that it was something bad. She also said I have a big heart and that I was going to help a lot of people. Which was true, I do have a big heart and love helping people. I told her this seems like it can be accurate because I do have an ex-girlfriend in Florida, and she does have a grandmother that is very rich but doesn't use the money. Their grandmother has like 3,000 acres or something like that. I told her that I loved my girlfriend and that I wanted to be with her and only her. I wasn't sure which family member was sick, and she wasn't sure as well. The 3 cards look like it could be my 2 brothers and my father. I'm not sure which one was going to be sick in the future. What's even more tripped out was that I looked at Martinez from a distance. She wanted no part in what I was doing. She was a bit freaked out or just wanted to talk to another coworker and that walked in. That same night, a dark shadow visited Martinez and was calling her name. The shadow called her Gabby, like her family and friends do. It was a tall, dark shadow with red eyes, and her dog was barking at it. Martinez screamed and cried, and her mom came in the room and was asking what was wrong. The mother heard someone call Gabby as well, but thought it was her boyfriend. So Martinez told her mom everything that happened at work, and that I got my future right and thinks that I opened up something. Huh. Which I don't doubt her. That same night that the dark shadow visited her, I had a dream that a dirty young boy, possibly homeless, came to me. The place looks like somewhere in Mexico or some run-down Spanish place. This boy had dark shadows in his eyes, as if there was nothing there. He also had sharp teeth like tiny fangs. I tried to alter my dream to think of something else, but he was in every dream. He wouldn't go away. The next day, Martinez and I told each other what happened, and we were pretty sure it had something to do with my future being red, maybe. Let me know if you have heard of anything close to this experience. Me. My spirit contacts told me that it is possible that something nasty was affecting you because of the reading, but that such an event isn't very common. The red eyes you mentioned on the shadow figure is a paranormal red flag, no pun intended. Threatening and nasty beings who are manifested via magic of some sort tend to have glowing red eyes. I have heard many people report this who were previously unaware of the whole red eyes thing. You mentioned how you dated a Wiccan and that she showed you how to get visions of other people. Can you describe the nature of these visions in more detail? Rob. So I dated this Wiccan girl, Anna. I was introduced by a friend, which was weird, because for some reason they wanted me to meet or talk to one of his friends. Anywho, Anna had a friend that can see visions do magic, not sure what her nature was, and I forgot her name. One day, I think I asked her to help me with something. She asked me to open my window so I can let her in. So I did, and I gave her permission to come into my home, and she started describing everything in my home and what my mother looked like. I had no way of telling her any of this before we met, nor did I put this online anywhere. I had no pictures for anyone to see, but she described everything. She then made me see visions, or she helped me see visions of people in different places. I would describe stuff like someone walking in snow and someone wearing a blue sweater or something. They say it was accurate, but not sure if they were being honest. They were very twisted, psychotic people. The visions I see from time to time are shapes moving around, taking form of something. Last time a vision was so vivid, but what I saw was windshield wipers moving across the windshield and it was blue. Most visions have been blue. It was not raining in my area, not even for 100 miles. It was then I realized that I was someplace far away, or that I can see far away. It might have been snowing or raining, but it was hard to tell. I tried to focus more onto the area around where I was viewing, but could not make out anything. It might have been dark, not sure. I've been trying to look up research on how to get stronger on these visions, but not sure where to turn to. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. Me. Wow. It sounds like you can do what is generally called remote viewing. I've read quite a bit about it. It has been scientifically legitimized many times by many people. The military used it briefly for spying purposes, but they found that technology was more efficient. On my podcast, I read quite a few articles on remote viewing. Check out someone called Ingo Swan regarding remote viewing. Avoid a lying sack of shit called Major Ed Dames, though. He's a fear-mongering fraud. When you say that people were twisted, psychotic people, do you mean the people you would view, or the people who got you into seeing the visions? Rob. Yeah, I did some research on people in West Virginia and found out that they have some sort of mental disability over there. Not all of them, but probably most. I think they had me on some sort of magic spell to make me believe everything they were saying was true. It was a very crazy experience for me. Me. You mentioned a bad experience with a negative spirit. Do you want to tell me more about that? Rob. Sure. The Anna girl I was dating took a picture one day of someone breathing right next to her ear. She sent me the image and I enhanced the levels in Photoshop, and before there was nothing there, but when I enhanced the photo, it was a man's face. After that, I was hearing a man's breathing next to my ear at night when I stepped outside my house. Me. Okay, that's interesting that it was only outside, as if it was a being that was magically kept out of the psychic boundaries of your home. Rob. I would provoke it one time and step away from my house, but it didn't do anything. Until one night I was sleeping and it would lift up my feet whenever I went to deep sleep. It would do this a few times, and one night I set up a recording camera at night to see if I could catch it, and it never did it again. Me. Huh. Skeptics would sneer, but I've found that these beings are very good at avoiding or destroying evidence. Rob. My girlfriend told me that she sensed something bad within me when we started to date, and she blessed me with a prayer. She's Christian, but I'm not. I also had a priest bless me, and I think that helped too. Me. Yes, I am also not a Christian, but acknowledge that people with religious authority do have a mental psychic power that can be helpful in dealing with these things. Rob. Because I believe these spirits exist, but on another dimension that we can't explain. Me. You told me that you can now see people's auras. This is an ability which I've read a lot about, but I have never been able to achieve it myself. How did you first manifest this? Rob. This manifested to me around the same time I dated Anna. One trick was, I believe, was meditating in front of the mirror to see what your own aura color was. Mine was blue, and Anna had these complex colors of purple, pink, white colors. Me. Do you see the auras all the time, or is it something you have to switch on or focus? Rob. I don't see it on a daily basis. I think I have to switch it on and really focus on it. But since I've done it before, I don't think it takes much. Like, when I had my girlfriend do a blessing on me, I closed my eyes and immediately saw her green aura. I can feel the energy as well. Me. Cool. Those are all my questions. Thanks for talking with me. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Rob. There is something else. I've been able to see visions, dreams of my future once, and I guess dreams that explain my present life, maybe. Those dreams come to me randomly. Other than that, that's pretty much it. And now, the news.
What the hell in God's name is going down here?
A Michigan man says he saw a massive flying insect between the cities of Kalkaska and Grayling. Jamie Carroll told Cryptozoology News that he was outside of his residence talking to his neighbor when they spotted the dragonfly. It was 10 to 12 inches, it had 4 wings, and was iridescent blue, the 61-year-old real estate agent said about last summer's encounter, which he claims lasted only a few seconds. Giant insects are of special interest to cryptozoologists, as some believe that members of the supposedly extinct genus Meganeura from the Carboniferous period could still be alive. The anonymous eyewitness says he doesn't want to give too much information about the area of the alleged sighting in order to protect this rare animal from unwanted human activity. It was about 30 years ago, he told Crypto Crew researcher Thomas Markham. It was a very general geographic area, he added. The man believes the rodent was about 14 feet long, with an estimated weight of 350 pounds. It is believed that giant beavers, also known as castoroides, went extinct about 10,000 years ago. But the main man is not the only one claiming to have spotted such a rare creature. Arizona author and Bigfoot researcher Mitchell Waite last year said he and his team had seen a giant rabbit, but were not able to capture it on video due to an unexpected camera malfunction. They believe could be linked to the additional strange activity linked to the area. Markham, who claims over 20 years of experience researching the paranormal, says the giant beaver sighting is even rarer than Bigfoot. Who knows what all is actually out there? We do know they were real, as we have a good amount of fossils. Could there still be a few around? Maybe, said Markham. A man on Thursday said he saw a dinosaur-like bird at a public park about 50 miles northwest of Tucson, Arizona. The 28-year-old construction worker, Ruben Navarre, told Cryptozoology News that he and a friend were driving through the north side of Elroy, Arizona, when he spotted the large bird 13 years ago at North Park, a place dedicated to provide the city residents with sports and a variety of recreational activities. I saw the bird sitting on top of some overgrown trees, he said about the winged creature. The man claims the sighting lasted about 15 seconds and that they did not stop the vehicle to investigate. His friend Ray, who was the driver at the moment of the sighting, did not see the animal. It was huge. The way I'd describe it, it sounds crazy, but it was like the dinosaur bird, he explained, referring to the extinct flying reptile known as pterosaur, Greek for winged lizards. Its color, he said, was dark brown and its skin did not have feathers nor hair. Navarre believes the size of the bird was about 12 feet in height. In Paciencia, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, September 15th, 1977, Antonio La Rubia, a 33-year-old bus driver, spotted a hat-shaped object more than 200 feet in diameter over a football field on his way to work at 2:20 in the morning. Frightened and ready to run, La Rubia was hit by a blue light, which immobilized him. At that moment, 3 robot-like figures appeared near him. The entities were about 4 feet tall and had an antenna more than a foot long jutting out from the middle of their football-shaped heads. The antennas were topped with a teaspoon-shaped tip that rotated rapidly. Across the middle of their heads was a row of what looked like small mirrors in 2 shades of blue, one light, the other dark. Their stocky bodies were covered in scale-like clothes or skin that appeared to be made of dull aluminum. They had arms like elephant trunks that narrowed down to tips as narrow as a finger. Across their waist was a belt with hooks holding syringe-like devices. From the bottom of their rounded bodies emerged a single leg, actually a narrow pedestal that ended in a small circular platform. As the 3 identical entities floated around La Rubia, one pointed a syringe at him, whereupon he found himself in a corridor inside the craft. Through the transparent wall, La Rubia could tell that they had taken off. In a huge hall with only a piano-like device and filled with some 24 of these entities, La Rubia underwent an examination of some sort. He was also shown a series of slides, some of himself both dressed and naked, another of a horse and cart on a dirt road, one of traffic on a busy thoroughfare, and one of a dog trying to attack one of the beings. To La Rubia's horror, the dog turned blue and melted. Another slide showed a UFO factory with millions of robots around. During the picture show, one of the entities drew blood from La Rubia's finger into a syringe. Suddenly, La Rubia thought he had been thrown overboard as he found himself on a street opposite the Paciencia bus station. One of the robots was standing beside him. When La Rubia looked around, the being vanished and La Rubia looked up to see a huge lead-colored balloon receding in the sky above him. It was 2:55 in the morning. Over the next month, the witness suffered from nausea, diarrhea, fever, and a burning and itching so severe that he was unable to work. On October 10th, 1954, in Mahalat, Persia, proximate date, many farmers observed the landing of a marvelous luminous object, hemispherical in shape, emitting multicolored beams. The central part appeared to be metallic. The object shot straight up suddenly and vanished while the crowd watched. On October 10th, 1954, in Époisses, France, between Époisses and Tultry, Daniel Grappin and Francois Bolletre, topographers, saw a luminous sphere 3.5 meters in diameter on the ground near Route N454. On October 10, 1954, in Croix-Roubaix, France, second landing here, seen by Marius de Wilde and his 4-year-old son, a disc 6 meters diameter, about 1 meter high, landed again on the tracks. 7 little men emerged and spoke in an unknown language. The craft then vanished without noise or smoke. Traces larger than the first and symmetrical were observed. The Wild refused to report the case. October 10th, 1954 at 0630 hours. In Charmez-les-Côtes, France, Roger Thirier, jailer in Ucouvray, a detention center, was riding his motorcycle when he suddenly saw an aluminum-colored object shaped like a plate with a dome and 2 portholes. It was about 2 meters in diameter and 1 meter high. It took off immediately. On October 10th, 1954 at 1400 hours, in Saint-Germain-de-Livet in France, a math professor, Mr. Bon, observed a silver disc about 7 meters in diameter rise silently from a point about 250 meters to the side of the road. Spinning, it dived to the ground from an altitude of about 800 meters, then flew off horizontally at a dizzying speed. On October 10th, 1954, at Ceyla-sur-Vienne in France, Roger Gayot and his family saw a very bright object come very close to the ground. Now, strange events in Mexico. Lake Catemaco reports a huge black serpent with 2 horns on its forehead, 1969. In the Ciudad Valles, a taxi driver met 2 UFO entities, mid-August 1953. In Coatepec, 4 men separately saw a strange figure dressed in black on Avenida Campillo. He had shining hands, cat's eyes, and was carrying a metal or crystal rod giving off a bright light, September 1965. In Ixtapalapa, 2 men saw 2 flying entities, 18th August 1972. In Mexico City, Pilot and Piper aeroplane was accompanied by 10 to 12 foot diameter disc at each wingtip, and another flew underneath, 3rd of May 1975. In the Gulf of Mexico, 50 miles north of Frontera, people on board the Livingston saw a sea monster at least 200 feet long, dark brown, and with a head 6 feet long. It made a loud rattling noise as it swam away. 21st of June 1908. In Yucatan, a caretaker at Mayapan archaeological site saw a pygmy from the group of little people known as the Eluks, 1977. Now going to Mongolia, in the Altai Mountains, Russian doctor saw a family of wild men and learned from his patients that the Almas had been seen by many of them, 1963. Near Bulgan, man found hair-covered corpse which was not bear or ape or man, but not knowing its significance, he left it where it was, 26th June 1953. In the Gobi Desert, military personnel working on irrigation projects saw a great disk of light trailing flames which landed on the sand and took off when teams of motorcycle troops arrived, leaving seared cross on the ground, mid-April 1968. In the USSR, reconnaissance unit during Japanese invasion saw and shot 2 hairy creatures like anthropoid apes man-sized with reddish hair all over 1937. Now going to Morocco, in the Memora forest, French engineer in car saw a small entity entering UFO which took off, 12th October 1954. In Ovad Beth, truck driver saw a circular flat UFO flying over Beth River. It flipped over, then landed on Edgent Field. Soon rose and flew off at great speed, 3rd November 1954. In the Sahara Desert, there was a rain of frogs in December 1977.
What the hell in God's name is going down here?
That was a public service announcement designed to scare the shit out of you.
He was abducted by aliens earlier this afternoon. That little girl got lost under the bed and she went into an alternate dimension.
I'm going to read some more patient experiences from DMT the Spirit Molecule by Rick Straussman. More than once, the DMT sessions gave me the gift of truly subjectively knowing the phenomenon described in Introductions to the Dead in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Even greater is the gift of knowing that I have had practice dying and returning. It's so far out, so weird, so out of control. You have to learn something. I think I've learned what it's like to die, to be completely helpless in the throes of something. That's been helpful. Stunned, I felt myself holding back. I relaxed and the environment began to change noticeably. I knew I was going through the first bardo of death, and that I had been here many times before, and it was okay. This is just like the last time, I thought. Enough continuity with my waking consciousness gave me this thought next. But this is my first time crossing over. I had concluded that I had broken out of time and space and either was experiencing my normal pattern of dying, or was connected to a time in the future when, once again, I will know this is the time I was in, back then, now. I no longer fear death. It's like you're there 1 minute and then you're somewhere else, and that's just how it is. So I think it had that effect. These experiments are helping me in my reading of the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. I know what it's like to be totally free. I think the high dose is like a death trauma. It knocks you out of your body. I could have tolerated death or some major physical leaping out of this plane type of experience under DMT. This would be a good drug for people in a hospice program or the terminally ill to have some acquaintance with. I've never had so many visuals. I like to think of myself as daring, jumping off a cliff. It's a very enchanting place. I almost don't want to leave it. Transitions are completions. How I am, who I am. First I saw a tunnel or channel of light off to the right. I had to turn to go into it. Then the whole process repeated on the left. It was intentional that way. It was as if it had a source further away. It got bigger farther away like a funnel. It was bright and pulsating. There was a sound like music, like a score, but unfamiliar to me, supporting the emotional tone of the events and drawing me in. I was very small. It was very large. There were large beings in the tunnel, on the right side next to me. Everything was unimportant relative to this. Things were flashing by as if from a different perspective. It was so much more real than life. The left and right tunnels joined in front of me. There were gremlins, small faces mostly. They had wings and tails and stuff. I paid them little attention. The larger beings were there to sustain and support me. That was their realm. A sort of good and evil thing, the gremlins versus the tall beings. The tall beings were loving, smiling, and serene. Something rushed through me, out of me. I remember thinking at some point, here comes the separation. I felt my body only when I swallowed or breathed, and that really wasn't a physical feeling as much as a way of seeing ripples or sending ripples through the experience. I felt strongly, this is dying and this is okay. I had heard of the bright light tunnel, but I didn't expect it to be the way it was here today. I thought it would be primarily in front of me, but this took turns on both sides and then joined in front. Nor was it as bright as I thought it might be. I'm amazed that DMT is in the body. It's there for a reason. It's there for dying today. I had a sense of dying, letting go, and separating after the beings in the tunnel helped me along. The other side is very, very different. There are no words, body, or sounds there to limit things. I first saw deep space, white with stars. Then there was this multi-dimensional experience starting. It was alive. It was the aliveness that I heard. My body was trying to say, remember the body, as I was going into that place. It wasn't a desperate cry, but an attempt to keep it real. Make the experience real from the point of view of the senses. The body wanted me back. I thought I could see light down below, the world's light. It was like a little flap was lifted, like a simultaneous alternate reality. It's like a cosmic joke. If we all knew what was waiting for us, we'd all kill ourselves. That's why we stay in this form for so long, to figure that out. That's also why it's so hard to remember the immediacy of it. I've been reading books about near-death experience, saved by the light and embraced by the light. They really do a good job describing the DMT state. I'm reading them in such a familiar manner. I don't know if the beings today were saying try death once or try life once. That place is so full and so complete that the idea of this place is to try and be as complete as possible. Yet when I came back into my body, it was so heavy and so confining. Also, time here seems so strange. Eternity is an attribute of the place. It would have to be. I hate this part. My own body, my energy starts to shake. It's like after any spiritual trip. It's like an aftershock. Every time I do any kind of psychoactive drug, I shake for a while. Do other people do that? Don't worry, this is nothing. It doesn't matter if it's a big dose or a little dose of anything. I shake because of the post-traumatic effects. It was really quite special. I wasn't human for about 3.5 minutes. This dose creates a level of stress that's unparalleled in the annals of my history. I met myself as the creator of all. I've had that realization before, but not at this level. There was the sound of the entire universe, more like a hum. It was persuasive, overwhelming. I thought, holy moly, how did I get into this? Things weren't right, and were getting more wrong all the time. Then my ability to perceive as a human being went out. There were no more emotions, because emotions work only up to a certain point. I saw a man lying in a hospital room. He was naked with a person on either side of him, one female and one male. At first they didn't look like anybody I knew. They were perfect generic human beings. I recognized in context that they were me, you, and Laura. The way of knowing was totally different from this reality. I didn't know I was in a study of any kind. There was something wrong with him. He was there to get better. The hospital was a healing center. What was wrong with him was death. The naked person was dead. What killed the person was the stress from the DMT. None of my guardians or protectors made an appearance. They were out of the loop. He was healed, more than healed. He was reborn. He got cured from death, healed from death, and then he became the creator of a whole universe. I gradually became more and more solid and moved toward my everyday presence. I watched the universe's creation down from fundamental mental energy to a vibratory rate to material things. I realized I was recreating the hospital and the room. As the world gelled more and more, I wanted to see it and asked to have the eye shades taken off. I became fascinated with my fingers, like a newborn. I've taught classes on how the universe is a construct of your own mind, and here it was happening. My attitude was different when I knew you were my creations. I felt as close to you as to my own son and daughter. I would have to say my experience was a classical death rebirth experience. I had done it before, but never in the same way as with DMT. It was spectacular in imagery, texture, and atmosphere, and had incredible lighting and effects. Boil it down, and it's very, very classic. This was harrowing. This was way beyond. I knew the boundary beyond life existed. I never thought I'd be there, though, at such an early stage. It's just the wrong place and time. I expect these sorts of things in the mountains with my friends in a more ceremonial setting. A true surprise.
Time has come to see the world as it is.
I'm going to read another selection from the book Cosmic Voyage by Courtney Brown. On the 21st of August, 1993, a NASA space probe was approaching Mars when suddenly all contact was lost between the probe and ground controllers. New York Times, 24th August 1993, page A1. The probe, Mars Observer, was scheduled to take detailed photographs of much or nearly all of the Martian surface, including areas in which previous satellite photographs showed surface anomalies, which arguably represented pyramid structures and face-like geological carvings. Following the unexpected silence from a previously flawless working satellite, technicians and scientists at NASA were at a loss to explain the situation. In the days immediately following the event, the New York Times reported that some folks at NASA were openly wondering why Mars seemed to be jinxed. Among other mysterious occurrences relating to Mars, a Soviet probe died under similar circumstances as it approached one of the moons of Mars not long before this. Some people in the agency actually wondered aloud, only half-jokingly, if there could be an extraterrestrial cause for the series of curious technological failures involving that planet. After months of investigation, the agency announced that the probe probably blew up because of some internal fueling problem. But the investigators were not sure about this diagnosis, and there were no data to support this claim. It was a hunch, but it was the best they could do at the time. This chapter explains what actually happened to the Mars observer. Readers should be reminded that no prior information was given to me regarding the nature of the target either before or during the session. Moreover, the data were collected in a remotely monitored session. That is, the session was monitored from my monitor's home while I sat in my office at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Such monitoring is both verbal and visual. Speakerphones are used on both sides to keep the monitor and viewer in constant contact. Moreover, intermediate results, including sketches and raw data, are faxed to the monitor during the session as are final results following the completion of the session. As with all Type 4 data, the viewer is given target information only after the session is completed. My Stage 1 data indicated that I was dealing with a hard, man-made structure together with a sense of movement. I am getting a lot of movement here. Something is going very fast, highly energetic. I am getting two objects together, at least very close. One is small, hard, solid. It is moving very fast. The other is a large, more complicated, irregularly shaped object. This is weird. There doesn't seem to be any ground underneath either object. I do not know why I cannot see the ground. They are just there. Move on to Stage 6, Matrix and Sketch. For your sketch, place an X on the paper to represent the location of the objects. Trace the movements of the objects. Well, the smaller object came from off to the side. I am following it back now to its point of origin. Uh-oh. What do you have? Stay in structure. Go to the Matrix. It's a ship. The small thing leads back to an ET type ship. It was apparently shot like a projectile out of the ship and it hit the other, larger object. The one that was irregularly shaped. Why would they do something like that? Don't analyze, just collect the data. What do you see? Well, I am going inside the ship now. There are beings in here. They are bald, all of them, it seems. They have eyes. I am sketching the face of one now. The entire ship seems like a large metal structure. I am in a room. There are things in this room, lots of things, technical things. Chairs, tables, a few beings, computer terminals, things like that. Okay, let's take a break for now. Write down the time, fax me the results so far, and call me back. See ya. Right, give me a few minutes. Resuming. Courtney, go back to your Stage 6 sketch. I want you to trace the movement of the ship back to its origin. Okay, doing that now. Okay, I have the starting point. It is a hole in the ground, a cavern. The metal vehicle is in a cavern. Beings are getting off and on this vehicle. Go to the surface, what do you see? I am going up now. There are reds, sandy textures, rough terrain. This seems like Mars. That's analysis, put that down as an AOL for now. Go through the matrix, data only, go back into the cavern. Well, there are beings in this cavern. Lots of them. They are gray types. They are working. Courtney, I want you to pick one of the beings and go into its mind. What do you get? Okay, have one. Wow. Put that down as an aesthetic impact. AI, go on. Find out something about them. Find out if they sleep. Gosh, I'm getting this clearly now. The gray knows that I am here. It does not seem to mind my probes. Very natural feeling. It may not sleep like we sleep. Something else happens. Its comparable process is when its consciousness goes very deeply back. I'm not exactly sure what this means. Should I follow the consciousness back? Go ahead, keep in the matrix. Whoa, it is deeply, deeply black. It is a void. Emptiness, space. It is not bad, but I do not know what to do here. What should I do next? Follow the being through time to its point of birth. Where did it come from? Okay, I have it now. The infant is in a tube like a clear canister. I am at the new location now. I do not know where this is, but it looks like a laboratory. Go outside, what do you see? This is an airless world. I see stars, craters, rocks. I better AOL this impression. It is like the moon. The light is incredibly bright here. Lots of stars, so bright. Boy, are things clear here. Looking around, there is a planet in the sky. Hey, I'm sorry, but that thing looks like Earth. I can even see the clouds and water. The thing is blue. Okay, let me AOL that as Earth. Go back to the infant in the tube. What is in the tube? Just the infant, like a big fetus, in a thick liquid. The liquid is green. Taste the liquid. What does it taste like? Yeah, it tastes terrible, like oil. Okay, return forward in time to the being in the cavern where the ship was. Find out more about the working environment and the being's personality. This gray, let me call it a gray since that is what it looks like, is not happy by our standards. It is working. I'm moving into its mind now. It seems emotionless. I even get the sense it has been psychologically raped. This is not good. It seems to know little else. I do not have a good feeling about this being. Something is not right here. Sketch the being. Got it. The skin is white and leathery. The being actually seems quite strong despite its thin appearance. but somehow I feel sorry for the being. It is not a good situation for it. I am just feeling bad. Okay, we have to end the session now. You are starting to empathize with the being, which can begin to taint the data, but this has been very good up to now. Put down the ending time. Well, this session sure is a mystery to me. I can't imagine what the target could have been. What was it? It was Mars Observer, loss event 1993. You're not joking? Nope, it was the Observer. So that was the irregularly shaped object. It was hit by a big bullet? Why the heck would they do that? That's a good question, but we have to believe the data. This session was pristine. Apparently they did not want that satellite around taking detailed photos of whatever. It may seem strange to use a Canon-type device to take it out, given this day and age of lasers, etc., but remember that the Soviet probe also died of mysterious causes, and the last telemetry information from that probe was a visual image of an approaching object or energy source combined with a shipboard energy surge. My guess is that the ETs did not want any chance of a similar leakage of data, so they took it out physically. For all humans would ever know, it could have been hit by a meteor. I'm still a bit numb. I can hardly believe it, but it all fits. I am just repeating the target in my mind, waiting for it all to sink in. Good session. Yeah, let me get off now so I can fax you this. We will talk later tonight. I just can't get over it. Good plan. I'm waiting for your fax. Talk to you tonight. Take care. A great deal of information came out of this session, and it is useful to summarize the primary impressions. The Mars Observer was destroyed by a projectile-type device that was launched by a nearby ET ship. The ship originated, or returned, to an underground hangar, apparently on Mars itself. There were many beings in the hangar, all in a state of great activity. Some of the beings, but not all, were small gray types. They were workers. I followed one of the beings back to its birth and found that it was born in a laboratory. It may have been created to be a worker. The being itself does not necessarily feel that it is being abused or enslaved. During periods of apparent sleep, in a gray sense of the word, the being's consciousness resides in some place that seems empty, space-like, a void. It does not seem to dream. The laboratory in which it was born seems to be on our moon in an underground structure, a base of some sort. The nutrients that surrounded the fetus-like infant are in a green liquid that has the consistency of motor oil. This session raises as many questions as it offers answers. We now know what happened to NASA's Mars probe, but we still do not know what it was that the ETs did not want the satellite to detect or photograph. It is not clear whether the Greys involved with the base on Mars were working with Greys elsewhere. In this situation, the Greys seem to be workers, and other humanoid beings seem to be in control. Unfortunately, I did not clearly perceive exactly who was in control.
Science can explain everything if we look hard enough.
Shut up, science bitch.
Nothing is true. Everything is beautiful. Not only is he like ruining my life, but with all this God shit that he's into, he could be ruining my afterlife.
It's a sort of interdimensional vagina that somehow appears. I can interact with it.
Fabric of the entire universe could be torn apart.
I know my mind is